Google paid out, settled for millions. Uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah, so I've started live streaming. Welcome to the Golulug, UC-Lug, Columbia Linux, or Linux user groups to, and I think that's Kevin Tolson there.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry, I was checking the elevator. I'd set it to open earlier, but when I went and checked it, it had closed back, so I reopened it. So I'm just wondering if anybody had tried to come up and couldn't get up.
Yeah. Okay. So we only got 3 people here. Is the who's presenting today? I forgot the topic.
I don't remember. What we're going to do is I think somebody's going to do like a short talk, and then we had, what else do we have?
Jam and I were just talking about Elon Musk trying to blow up Twitter.
I think that's a done deal. So it's like
he's going great guns at it, boy.
Going for broke, all right.
And some Mastodon admins are just are starting to get bills for $50 to $100 a month for the servers they stood up, because now they're getting, if they get just one popular person joining their server, then that's like one guy got 47,000 subscriptions to his server just from one celebrity joining, and his bill went from like $0 to $100 a month.
Nice.
So that's something I didn't think about, because I was thinking about standing up an instance myself, but you're exposing yourself to some cost if that happens. And I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I don't know how to share. I don't know how to follow somebody if you're on one server but that person is on another server. So still kind of it's a different model. It's a federated universe model that they call the Fediverse. And a lot of people are jumping ship from Twitter and coming over and wondering how to plug that thing in. And then there's another Mastodon instance that was created by a hacker called the Jester. And his whole deal was to fix everything that was wrong with Twitter. And he called his site Counter Social. And he's getting a huge influx of people, but he's got all kinds of bots running that figure out if you're a troll or not and kick you off, and all that. He's got all this stuff going. So it'll be interesting to see if Counter Social wins out, or Mastodon does, or some other site. Tribal's another site, but their terms of service is just horrifically bad. It's just short of giving them your bank account number, and allowing them to draft checks on your behalf.
That's fine. Hang on, I wonder if that front door, they changed some of the, the time changed, some of the schedules changed on this building, so
yeah.
They don't automatically, the clocks don't automatically, the schedules don't automatically change correctly sometimes. Let's see.
Yeah, normally you could just walk right up to the elevator, but today it's all locked up tight.
All right, it should be open now.
That did it.
All right.
Okay, Jay said doesn't have confirmation on the topic, so he didn't really want to publish it. So I guess it's kind of a free for all. Sometimes those are pretty fun meetings too, though.
Yeah, we'll give them a few minutes. I wonder how many people have sent it outside. So
Well, we got.
yeah, open the elevator with that outside. Evidently, that outside door must have locked early.
Oh man, yeah. So,
Sorry about that, man.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I think the time change, that schedule kind of gets screwed up on that door.
That makes
I unlocked
sense.
the elevator, but I didn't think about the other door.
No, that makes sense. Cool. Small Earth. Yeah, I was gonna present something on man in the middle attacks, but Jace, I thought he said that we are doing stable diffusion this month. So he said, so I might have misunderstood it, but I did not come prepared based on that comment a couple days ago. So
okay, so he said
Held open that time.
we didn't have confirmation. So we're kind of a blank slate right now.
So how about it? Hey,
I'm
not gonna put you on the spot,
but I
right?
haven't turned into slides. Can
Again, like,
recite a haiku about as well as I can do the rest.
Because of this snake. It's slivering. It's sliver.
Snake is slithering.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old
It's
wants to
an
give a
eel.
presentation on a snake
It's an eel.
slithering. Yeah, it's the eel.
Yeah. Because Pete sees an eel.
Yeah.
That's a blue crab. It's green. I see green on it.
Okay.
And yellow. It's Robo Pete.
Robo Pete. All right.
It's Robo Pete. He looks so funny. He has sharp teeth.
Yeah, he's got sharp teeth.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Hey, Boo, you want to say hi?
Oh, hi. Hi. Hi.
These guys are in Greenville, South Carolina.
Mhm.
You know where that is?
Where are they? Oh.
You know where Greenville is?
Mhm.
I don't think you do. They're in a different part of South Carolina, called
Oh.
the Upstate.
Upstate. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
It's a little bit cooler than down in Columbia.
Yeah.
Crab.
Yeah.
It did get pretty warm today, though, actually.
Yo. Crabby. Yo.
Okay, Boo. Enough.
That was so
Enough
funny.
of that.
And octopus.
Okay. All right.
It's
Yeah.
an octopus. It's an octopus. Octopus.
So, yeah, I guess he says Tuesday, October 11th,
Blowfish.
Ben will be going through stable diffusion. But that was last meeting,
It's a blowfish.
right? No, no.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was last meeting.
uh,
Yeah, that was last meeting. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And he said somebody. I don't remember. There was one. Somebody said something. Was it you that? I don't remember.
I had originally responded to.
It was on that thread for the last month's meeting, though. I think.
That's
got it.
probably why. Okay.
Yeah, it was on
makes
that.
more
It was on the
sense.
November 8th thread, but there was somebody that was like, yeah, so there was going to be something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let me learn.
Yeah.
Pete sees a jellyfish. It glows in the dark. Pete sees
Yeah, Scott Hanselman from Microsoft. After that stable diffusion presentation, which I'm
So,
pretty sure he did not see. Nevertheless, he made a post about that artificial intelligence is, within 10 years or 20 years is going to be able to.
is that the one you found?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, on a Linux adjacent sub note, I usually have like a few laptops and stuff like that, but I've got my like gaming PC that I've always had Windows on just because it was like the best way to do it if you want to play most games. But having had this Steam Deck for a few months now, I'm pretty sold on Proton, and so I just switched it over. Like this is Arch, but I just put Ubuntu on my gaming PC, and I can still use Steam for gaming. But what's really helpful is NVIDIA has just really stepped up their driver game on Linux.
Okay.
And so even for things like I've been helping my wife out recently she's a Furman professor, and for accessibility, several of the students have requested subtitles, and she has a flipped classroom. So instead of she used to always teach in person, but partially because of COVID and partially because of I guess some research into pedagogy, she basically produces videos on the learning stuff, which before would have just been like a text reading assignment. And then all of class time is like active problem solving. But because the instruction is videos, there's some students that I guess learn better if they have the subtitles. And she's a chemistry, like an organic chemistry professor. So it's a pretty domain specific terminology. But I've been using, I think it's OpenAI's Whisper is their kind of voice to text model they have, and running that on like the CUDA cores of it's like a 1080 Ti, and it works really well. It's like pretty fast on running on Linux, which is surprising because a lot of times it's just bashing your head against drivers and small things here and there. But to be able to just like clone a Git repo. It might have even been a pip that you installed, like Whisper with. I forget what it was, but like it pretty much just works and can grab, through the kernel the graphics card that's available and use it, which is surprising.
Hello.
Oh, hey Bob, how you doing?
Oh, I am audible. Okay.
Yeah. Your microphone is a little bit lower than everybody else's.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having trouble. It's not. Yeah, for some reason, it won't use my headphones, even though it says it is. So I take it most people are out voting.
Oh, did that many days ago.
Oh.
For 10 more minutes, so it's like.
Well, I'll put it this way. You did it several days ago, but does that mean South Carolina had its midterm election several days ago?
No, it's early voting.
Early voting, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I did the same thing in North Carolina. I wasn't sure if South Carolina had that. I don't think they did while I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, after this, I have a presentation on later tonight. And the topic is actually the pirate's dilemma, which is one of the 18th century mathematical models for voting. Mathematical demonstration that a winner-take-all election promotes a two-party system.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got this one thing that's totally off topic, but it pertains to the voter thing. My daughter today, it's a first time voter. She's 18. She did the motor voter DMV registration thing, and where you can register to vote when you get your license.
When you do your license, right?
And anyway, get over there to their precinct, and she's like, we don't have you. We don't have you here. So they go over to the polling manager, and they start calling around and stuff. Turns out that the DMV, most of the people that register there, it never makes it back to the counties. Yeah.
Huh.
So we had to go we had to come downtown, go to the county square and go through the whole line there so she could finally vote. It was like a 3-hour ordeal.
Oh, so
And it was
that's the fallback
supposed-
for
It was,
Greenville County.
yeah, we had to go back, yeah, if your address is wrong, the place you have to go, you know, that polling place.
Gotcha.
And, but yeah, I just thought that was just, you know, and every one of those people were like, yeah, DMV, they always screw it up. So it's supposed to be this convenient thing. It's supposed to, you know, increase the number of voters, young voters especially. But then you know, then you get to the polling place and you can't vote. This is just a little rant, but it's good.
That's a good rant. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I think the post office on their USPS website, I think lets you change. I forget if they redirect you or if they actually do it.
You still have to do a separate address change for your voter registration.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a few years since
It's like a separate thing, and you're supposed to be able to do that when you do an address change at the DMV. You're supposed to be able to do it there as well, but even that gets messed up. They said,
Yeah.
So any type of voter registration at DMV is not a good idea.
Am I audible?
Yeah, we can still hear
Yeah.
you, Bobby.
Okay. Apparently it's using the microphone from my headset, but it won't put the sound into my headset for some reason. Okay. Yeah, I had actually difficulty myself. North Carolina, when I came here, had, they don't call a motor voter here, but had registration through the DMV and when you got your license. But also, the North Carolina BSE has a website which makes it very easy to check your registration online, address and so on. I do that every time.
Yeah, South Carolina has that as well, but you know, we didn't think to do that. It was, you know, she checked the boxes, filled out the forms, did the whole works at the DMV, and you know,
Yeah.
but it just never got processed.
I could fully understand why you wouldn't, although I have
Yeah.
the advantage, if you will, that when I was in Michigan and I went to get my driver's license, A, it took me 3 times to get it, and B, when about 2 weeks after I got it, AAA called me and told me that the information on my driver's license was wrong. Specifically, not the information on the front, the information in the barcode on the back, they said was wrong. And they were right. I checked it immediately, and they had my name misspelled, and I think there was something else wrong with it.
Oh, wow.
And I found out in Michigan that was quite common. I've reminded some of my coworkers to check amid other people reporting similar experience. And I think something like 1 out of 4 of my coworkers that hadn't checked until then found something wrong in the barcode on the back of their driver's license.
Wow.
So I don't have the greatest trust in, I learned a habit, shall we say, of not overly trusting they call it Secretary of State in Michigan, but the DMV.
Yeah.
By the way, I ended up from the DMV, from Michigan, with actually 3 copies of my driver's license. They actually sent me 3 hard copies eventually, but it took over 90 days from first filing and successfully passing all the tests.
Wow.
So do we have a presentation that we can?
Not really one tonight, although, I mean, if you want, I can go into what I was going to go into later tonight for the Pirate's Dilemma, but it's not well suited for this. It's all audio, no video.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, it's kind of a free form. Anybody have any topics or, I mean, any just problems or
Problems,
interesting
yes.
projects or anything? So.
Yeah, I'm trying to get started a Linux group here in Winston-Salem, and I would appreciate help. I have limited time, but the bigger problem is when I do get people who say they're interested and want to come, they don't show up. More so than any place else I've lived. And unfortunately, there's a lot fewer people here using Linux.
Have you ever thrown a party, Bob?
Have I ever thought of what?
Have you ever thrown a party, Bob?
Partybob?
No. Have you ever thrown a party?
Party.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it's a gathering of people, and
In other words, throw a party.
the rule of thumb is that if you invite 20 people of your best friends to come to a party, only 10 are going to come. And,
That I expect. Yeah.
and that's on the high end.
Okay. Yeah, that I expect. And in the past, when I've started such groups, I've usually been able to get 20 people to say they're going to come, and when 3 show up, at least it gets started. And then the next time 5 show up, and then the next time 6, and so on.
Yeah.
Here, I'm having trouble finding 2, but when I even get 5, none of them show up. And then afterwards they say, "Oh, was that when it was or something?" And I even tried calling before, and well, they're not going to come. And then later it's so there's something else going on that wasn't going on in prior years. Or
Is
prior
Winston-Salem a big tech hub?
No, unfortunately not anymore. It used to be. We had Western Electric, a big firm here, and we still have a lot of the hardware. In fact, when they set off the incident, shall we say, Christmas about, 3 years ago, you may remember, in Tennessee,
Yeah.
we were the backup for that. So when they destroyed that AT&T facility, its load got shifted to the equipment here in Winston-Salem.
Is there a lug in Greensboro or?
No, the nearest one that I know is already in effect is in Raleigh. There used to be a lug here called Piedmont Lug, and I'm trying to get that. That's actually the current name I'm trying to get started. It was operating with the aid for a couple years of Wake Forest University. However, reportedly now they're principally I think I'll call it a liberal arts college. They have another name, and I'm not sure what it is, but they did have a computer science department. I'm told, I haven't been able to confirm, but I'm told they don't have that anymore. I shouldn't say computer science department. They had computer science classes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with Western Electric going away, and with Reynolds losing most of its headquarters here. They still have headquarters here, but they used to do a lot of manufacturing around here, food processing, etc.
Okay, thanks.
So no, and for more than a decade now, of course, all the techie stores, Radio Shack, and so on, have gone away. That doesn't seem to be just
The Radio Shack hasn't been a techie store for about 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry, what?
I said Radio Shack hasn't been a techie store for about 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was in grade school last time they were still selling.
And that's how long the techie stores have been out of here. There was 2 that were still around barely. I mean, small stores, but they were around here for in the last 5 years. One of them closed, 3 to 5 years ago, and now I just found out Intrex was the last one here. It closed. So there is no longer any techie store of any type anywhere within Winston-Salem.
On a slightly related note, I guess I do have a question for everyone that's here. Does anybody know, I guess, in maybe the larger upstate area, but I'd go down to Columbia or up in North Carolina if it was only an hour or 2 away, a place that sells used computer gear? Specifically, I'm trying to rehouse some of my home lab stuff, and I'm looking for like, a rack, probably the PDU power strips, some patch panels, stuff like that. If you start buying it all new, you add up and it's like $1,000 of stuff. But I'm trying to find a place, like ideally it's because I don't need the actual servers. I just need like the mounting hardware and like power distribution. So it could be a office going out of business that's like throwing in the dumpster. But I don't know if there's places like that, like buy that up, or recycling centers that you could scrounge that out of.
Not anymore.
Yes, there is.
Intrix was the last one here. They sold almost all new equipment, but that was the place where you would get like a hard disk or a case, not just parts of the case, but the whole case.
Yeah.
Hold on, Bob. There is a place, the South Carolina Surplus Warehouse in Columbia has.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's got well, they got a whole bunch of old laptops that government agencies are getting rid of. So that might be right up your alley. But I visited there many times. One time, I could have bought an entire AS400 for $500.
Yeah, North Carolina has that
We've
too.
got a bunch of just stuff that's just accumulated over the years. I mean, we may have some racks and some stuff, and PDUs and stuff in there.
Yeah, North Carolina has that
All
same arrangement.
That'd be cool. It's a fine balance between what the wife will let you put into the like the laundry room and what you can house. But
Right. Yeah. I'll go ahead and post a link to that in the chat.
well, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, online orders I found, I frequently don't get what's ordered. And so the question is, how can you successfully get parts or get stuff to try to build something with, to do experiment with?
For servers and stuff like that, I've had pretty good luck with just between eBay and Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, like camel on Amazon usually tells you if it's, actually a good price or not. And I usually do that for the more, like stuff like a Western Digital hard drive. You can get on Amazon, certain types of memory, but then everything else, I usually go to eBay. And then it's just the question of whether you want the Chinese version of it or the used or, and all that. But I don't think I've been burned more than maybe like once or twice on eBay in the last, like decade. And I buy an okay amount of stuff on there. I think most independent employers selling used stuff are pretty honest.
Yeah, eBay is the best I've seen so far. I recently bought, well, not too recently, I bought a SDR, software-defined radio from Bangor, which was recommended. It was, what's it called? Well, it's a Hack RF from, I forget the name of the company. I'll call it Genuine for now. That isn't the name. Close to that.
Great Scott.
In any event, though, researched it, ordered that on their website. That was what was on the invoice. What arrived was a knockoff.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I'm beginning to suspect the troubles I had that I thought was my ignorance. At this point, I believe it's because the knockoff does not perform as what it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's one place that you can run into this on Amazon and eBay, but if you're ever buying anything like op amps or like power circuitry, that you really should just buy like a Texas Instrument from like a reliable seller, because, or the other thing I do is I just like price like a 1/3 factor into it. If it's supposed to handle 10 watts, just assume it can handle 3 maybe, and then put it into your circuits or that. And but for stuff like SDR, if you just need components, sometimes just going to a ham fest. There's a few around here that it's gonna be your best bet for grabbing components.
Yeah, I've got.
That's true. That has indeed. I should have said eBay was my best online, but yes, the ham fests are definitely where I've gotten stuff that I haven't had troubles with mostly.
Yeah, don't buy cameras or DVRs, NVRs off Amazon.
Yeah,
I did that. I had a NVR that was a knockoff. It was a fake. and got my money back, but still, it was annoying.
You're a Prime customer.
Not too long ago, I was gonna upgrade kind of my home networking setup, and so I was like, well, I'm just gonna do Pfsense and Ubiquiti access points, but I didn't have, other than like running a desktop, which I didn't really want to be burning 500 watts for a router all the time. I didn't have anything else that had 2 NICs in it, so I looked on. I think I ended up getting it from Amazon, but they make small form, like the mini PCs. They're about like a NUC size.
Yeah.
There's a Chinese company, like Gi PC or something. And for I think it was just under $200. I'm like, oh, I'm so smart. This will last, forever. Because it had, an Intel, like it had legit components in it.
Yeah.
But because it's in the end, it's sort of like a single board computer almost, or the motherboard has an integrated PSU on it. It waited until about, I think, 16 or 17 months, like a month or two ago, it just died. And you can't replace the power supply unit on it anymore. It's dead. And there wasn't like an obviously, it's not like just a power cap blew out that you could like desolder it and fix it. So at some point I may play around with it, but for all intents and purposes, it's dead. And it's a pretty critical piece here.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So actually based on, I think it was an Ask Noah show episode, I ended up grabbing a Sophos like firewall appliance, but they're basically just 1U, servers that have a bunch of, network ports on it. And that's run Pfsense beautifully ever since then. I got a really good deal on it. It was like $130.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was actually cheaper, and it was at 230 or 240, like SG 230, which is, I forget, it was like 18 gigabits of throughput. Like, and even with like VPN concentration traffic, it's still pushed like 3 gigabits or something. So it's like more than I'll ever use in the next, few years in my home. And I think it pulls like 30 watts idle. So that I should have done that to begin with, but I just didn't even think to look at like security or firewall appliances as a router, because those things like the SG230, I forget what the annual license is if you buy Sophos.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
Firewall, but it's it's like several $1,000s, and then once it's a few years old, people get rid of the hardware for peanuts. So
the Pfsense hardware is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're running here. We're running, I can't remember what model they are, but some of the 1U units.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, sort of related. The Raspberry Pis right now are rather expensive. Anybody have any recommendations for other single board computers? Preferably one that can run some version of Linux on an SD card or some similar form. So in other words, something that basically has those two advantages: a single board computer that you can load and alter the operating system on.
Yes, Bob. I just recently did this. Last month is with a Pogoplug that I got off of eBay for $20. This is a 128 megabyte RAM and 128 megabyte flash system with a 1 gigabyte network card with 4 USB ports that is still supported by, it used to be supported by Arch, but it's not anymore, but or at least the one I got isn't, but it is still supported by Debian, and I was able to load Debian on it, and it wasn't an easy process. It took me 3 weeks off and on to get this thing going. You know how you get with tinkering with things like this, and you don't want to let them go. But you mentioned cost, and so for $20, and probably $1,000 worth of labor in my labor.
At least the labor is repeatable.
Yeah.
you,
So if
post
your
that?
own labor is free, yeah, you can do it for $20.
Well,
I
no,
think
I wasn't
probably
thinking of
orange
free,
pie
but
is
rather
usually
get
like the.
one work. Go ahead.
I was gonna say orange pie is probably like the next biggest kind of manufacturer of pie clones. I've had one of those in the past. It was fine.
Okay, who is that?
Orange pie.
Orange pie. Could you both, if you wouldn't mind, posting that sometime today or tomorrow?
Yeah. The one other thing I'd say that I've done for other stuff is, it depends on what your application is. If it's just like, some tiny thing, it's fine. But if it's something that might require a little bit of processing power, most of the ARM processors on those are kind of hamstrung, especially once you get, some distro on it. And so I've had pretty good luck on eBay, which is picking up fairly old NUCs, because those are also pretty power efficient. And you can get like I'm trying to think what the
These are what I
Intel generation, like an i3 or something.
Yeah, I think yes.
For like $40 or $50, and it's still going to be pushing more horsepower than, or about on par. Like like 8-year-old NUC is going to be on par with like a Raspberry Pi 4. A lot of times for just CPU. So, but if you really are looking for something that's really minimal, then the Pis are great.
Yeah, I got a couple things. One is a directional antenna, a radio direction finder. Another is a file server, a firewall, and a couple other facility controls, i.e., well, basically it's for radio room and similar things. So speed's not an issue. Obviously, if it was, wouldn't be thinking of in terms of a Raspberry Pi anyway.
So I'm looking on eBay right now, and they've got a Pogoplug for $6.
Wow.
Those things were initially selling for $200 in 2010.
Wow.
So, but they're worthless right now for people that are not like us, because the company has gone bankrupt, and there's no server to back it up in the cloud. So you have to go through all kinds of hoops to get Debian on there, and it's can be quite an ordeal if you get the wrong one.
I just had a question. When do the polls close in South Carolina? 9 p.m.?
7 p.m.
13 minutes ago.
Okay. And the South Carolina, the early voting, I take it, is not absentee, i.e. it counts in the determination of total votes? I'll put it this way. If a majority were found from today's polling only, would the early voting have any potential impact at all?
I don't know. I mean, the early voting ran for 3 weeks. So I'm sure there's quite a bit.
I think it's in the same pool as
I
the
thought it
general
was all.
election.
Yeah, I thought so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the way it is in North Carolina.
And I think they said they saw something yesterday that they got like 50,000 early votes, which is higher than previous years.
Yeah.
So it's not there's certainly been plenty of elections that were closer than 50,000 votes. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the way they do it here in North Carolina, last year or 2 years ago, North Carolina, they actually got more people early voting than voting on the last day of the election, i.e. today. And the way the algorithm I understand here is they collect the early voting ballots, but do not do more than count the number. They don't deliberately, they do not process any of them. Then they look at the last day's voting, and they add the number of votes that are on the last day, plus the number of votes that were by early voting. And if in order for a candidate to or an issue to be decided without individually counting the early voting, the candidate has to get enough votes on the last day to be more than half the sum of the last day in early voting ballots. In other words, it has to be numerically impossible for the early voting ballots to swing it.
Yeah, I guess it's not electronically connected to the website because it's still 0 counties and
It's still
precincts
showing
reporting.
0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, well, the federal elections, of course, won't be turned in yet. I don't know when they set. There's a time, which is when the polls close at some place near the international date line, before the Federal Election Commission here accepts the votes.
Hmm.
So all the tallies you're going to hear on the news tonight are their estimates. They won't be, the federal ones won't be official until sometime early tomorrow morning. Of course, that's never stopped the news from reporting winners and losers before then.
Yeah.
I never heard this Pogoplug before. That's interesting.
Yeah, I remember hearing of them, but I never messed with any of them.
Yeah, I'm the same way on that. I'd heard of it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, but see the glitch that was in the Powerball last night? That was kind of became kind of hilarious. You just hear about that? It was $2 billion.
No.
And yeah, they some kind of technical glitch, and they didn't do the draw until early this morning. And anyway, there was all kind of stuff going around, the internet and stuff. They said, well, they must have the lottery commission must be using the same people that the voting machine that work on the voting machines and stuff. There was some pretty good ones correlating it to voting.
Yeah, we went back to the paper ballots here in North Carolina, thank goodness.
Really?
When the feds several years ago were claiming troubles, and they gave money back to the states to buy voting equipment, North Carolina put out a bid. It was supposed to, by law, have, I believe, 120 days or 180 days or something before the decision. They actually put the bid out about 2 weeks before the decision date. And Diebold put in a bid, and a group, Open Voting Org, also put in a bid, but starting from scratch. They were hard pressed to meet all the tests required for the bid. They did, however, with people working 16-hour shifts, volunteers. And they were the only bidder that met the state's criteria. Diebold did not. In fact, they claimed that in particular the confidentiality and accuracy requirement were impossible to meet in any voting system. That was physically, mathematically, absolutely impossible, couldn't be done by laws of physics and math. Yeah, I don't know how many tens of thousands of freshman programmers have written software that demonstrates that ain't true. Not to mention, of course, our founding fathers. But anyway, unfortunately, North Carolina spent the money on the Diebold, got them, and then claimed that when it was pointed out that didn't even meet and they did that actually technically before the decision day. And then
I think we need to go back to the punch ballots, because I really miss the hanging chads.
Yeah, well, that's effectively what North Carolina did.
Oh, is it really?
They never, to the best of my knowledge, they never actually, at least here in Winston, they never used the Diebold equipment. They did go back to the Scantrons, which
Mm.
are sort of like the hanging Chad type.
Yeah. Scantron. Boy, that takes me back.
Yeah.
So we wasted that federal money. But fortunately, they didn't stick to it.
I don't know if you saw on the chat over there, Arnold posted the Arduinos, so for those small computers that go over there. I didn't think about those either. I forgot about those.
Small computers where?
Yeah, look in the chat. Look over in the chat
Okay.
one day. There's another link over there from Arnold.
Okay. Yeah, you can't put Linux on an Arduino, can you? It doesn't have sufficient memory, am I correct?
You might be able to get Tiny Core Linux on it, which is like a 7 megabyte distribution.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. I think Arduino is pretty small. I'm looking at the page right now, and it says.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I thought they were pretty much equivalent to the Pis. So
They were pretty
It
much
kind of
what?
depends on the Arduino is like a brand, and they use a variety of different like microcontrollers,
Yeah.
and then they sit it on a board and like put nice I/O on and do the layouts of the board.
yeah.
And historically, they've done a lot of work on drivers and tooling, so you don't have to be an embedded systems engineer to target it.
Okay.
But so they've kind of kept pace, and they do have some stuff that's a lot closer to a single board computer. But in the end, pretty much every microcontroller is a computer.
Yeah.
It's just there's a pretty limited I/O on a lot of
Okay.
that you just wouldn't be able to house a whole operating system.
That makes sense.
Yeah, my understanding, and I looked into this several years ago, but I don't remember all the details. Arduino was an international designation similar to a trademark. It didn't quite meet U.S. trademark details, but it was close. And what it actually referred to was the initialize, loop, repeat programming structure. And I think it might have also even included the use of C++, but it actually did not reference the hardware. You could put Arduino on any hardware that'll support a lot of people used to call the Apple roadmap because that was where it was introduced to a lot of people, whether or not they actually were its originators. So, and they were more geared for analog interfaces, but with that Arduino loop control structure for basically hooking the analog pieces together.
The page in the that's linked to in the chat is has a whole bunch of Arduino boards.
Good.
So it looks like any project you want to do from small to big.
I'm starting to come in, creep in.
Oh, nice.
Still showing 0.
Yeah, Arduino traditionally has almost all of their boards are Atmel microprocessors, which isn't my first choice. But because Arduino is such a brand name, the tooling and support for Atmel processors is really good. But like if you want like an NXP or Expressif, different thing like that, a lot of times you can still program it from Arduino, but now there's a lot of other IDE type solutions that you can cross compile, you know, like a scripting language or a true programming language like C, but it's not just C now. And then it goes down to the machine code of whatever the micro processor is. So, but like, I think I was just looking there, like Arduino now even has a Raspberry Pi, like the RP240, you know, which is that's a very recent, that came out like during 2020 or 2021, that chip. It's actually pretty capable. I think you can put like MicroPython and stuff on there. So sometimes like if you don't really need a operating system, but you could get it done in Python with a few different libraries. That's all you might need depending on the project.
Okay.
Indeed. Yeah, and actually I understand, I haven't seen it other than an advertisement. BeagleBoard supposedly now has actually presumably in response to the current prices, has supposedly a version that's Raspberry Pi compatible, i.e. you can, it has apparently drivers and so on to match the Raspberry Pi style. I haven't seen the details on it. But it would be logical that with the price of the Raspberry Pis, they could, it'd be good market for them. They used to be, when they were introduced to me about 10 years ago, they were they were similar, but much higher performance and higher cost. But definitely much higher performance.
It's got to be like a single precinct or something.
Yes, one precinct, yeah.
Yeah, well, the feds go every 10 days. There's the, if they can't get it counted in time to turn it in to the FEC tomorrow, then don't forget it goes 10 days to the next time the FEC asks. I know the press kept pushing, I forget what was it, 12 years ago or whatever. They kept pressing the election commissioner of Florida to, we want the answer right now. We got to have it right now. And she kept saying she wouldn't provide it, and they lambasted her. But by law, she can't. It's like reporting on a trial in progress.
It is interesting. I'm trying to remember the last time I voted, like in the general, if they had the same machines they had today.
It's the first time I've seen those machines.
Because with the barcodes at the top,
Mhm.
because I just would have assumed that a Scantron, I mean, maybe there's some sort of alignment thing, but I would have thought a Scantron would be easier to read by machine than a barcode.
Yeah.
Because I guess you do have at least you have a parity check on most. I didn't see which barcode that was, but you can have parity checks on barcodes.
Yeah.
So that if there is a flipped bit, you don't get like an off by one error, like if it's into a Scantron wrong.
Yeah.
So there's probably a good reason for it. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah. Well, actually, the open voting org one does use barcode by default. In other words, by each of the candidates, there's a barcode to identify the particular vote. And then one of the ways is you, I don't remember exactly how it works. You basically blacken a part of the barcode. And so it recognizes the black, but it doesn't, but it can still read the barcode and verify that you're, which one you voted for. And there is obviously, as a consequence, and the barcode obviously as a consequence has a checksum. But the problem is if the voter is making one motion, they're not transmitting their data with the barcode. In other words, it's not a case of marking 2 out of 3 in order to select a candidate. You make one mark and there's no check on that. With one, it's only one bit, so how can you have a checksum? And also, you don't want to have the risk of a tampered ballot where the barcodes get switched. That's certainly been done before on the Scantron and others historically. That's where the so-called voting machines, what they call it? In New Jersey, it was called political machines, and they referred to organizations that essentially controlled the election, those elected after. Tammany Hall would be an example of that from the late 19th century that you might have heard of in the history books. And they got their name from the fact that the counting machines would be mechanically altered so that, for instance, when somebody votes for candidate A, it actually records the vote for candidate B. And if they vote for candidate B, it also records the vote for candidate B. And maybe if there's a candidate C, it records that for candidate B. And there's no way the voter can tell the difference.
Well, Ben, what you thinking?
Yeah,
Wrap it up?
maybe you're running out of.
Yeah, we're running out of topics, I think.
Okay, well, anybody follow Artemis, or since the last one we met, did anybody follow the DART, the double asteroid redirection test?
No.
Okay. Approximately 4 weeks ago, but since the last of our meetings, DART did successfully hit Didymorphos, the satellite of Didymus that they were targeting. They successfully hit it dead center, and it was autonomous control, which was what they were trying to test because the delay time prevented doing it from Earth by teleoperation. They measured a change in the orbital period of Didymorphos from 11 hours 55 minutes down to 11 hours 23. They were going to call it a success if it even changed by as much as 73 seconds. So in that sense, it was a definite success. They were hoping by that amount, actually by considerably less than that amount, to deflect the whole system 7,000 kilometers a year later, halfway through its orbit. In other words, if it had been headed directly at Earth, its closest approach is 7 million kilometers. It's going to be getting further and further away for the next 100 years. And because it was rather well studied, we knew that to about 10 kilometers. they hit it with the hope that, as I said, it would deflect at about 7,000 kilometers, which would be enough to turn a dead center strike on the Earth into a complete mess. Regretfully, that, by the way, as I said, wasn't headed towards this at all. And I think that's one reason they chose it, because it there was no way they could cause it to strike Earth, despite the people who feared touching it and having it fall off the sky and land on Earth. I heard that on the Talking Heads, one of the Talking Head shows the next day. Anyway, unfortunately, the ejecta they were expecting, i.e., when it hit the Didymorphos, all the models they had predicted a small crater and a jet of unknown size being thrown backwards. Didn't work that way. Unfortunately, it seems to have thrown a lot more, and something that wouldn't be visible from Earth, so they had to